In 1963, a highway drill in Georgetown, Texas, suddenly dropped into nothing. Not soft mud, not a bad sample, empty space. The crew was not looking for fossils. They were testing limestone for a highway project along Interstate 35. But below the road plan was a hidden cavern, and inside that cavern were traces of an Ice Age world: mammoth, saber-toothed cat, glyptodont, camel, horse, ground sloth, short-faced bear, peccary, bats, and more. It sounds like the kind of discovery that rewrites history. But the real story is more careful than that. Inner Space Cavern does not prove a hidden civilization. It does not prove that humans reached America earlier than the evidence already shows. It does not give us a secret city under a 35. What it gives us is stranger, quieter, and stronger. A cave archive that suggests Ice Age Texas was more complicated than the simple map many of us carry in our heads. The discovery began as ordinary engineering. The Texas Highway Department, the predecessor of TxDOT, was drilling core samples near Georgetown to test whether the ground could support highway construction. Source accounts give slightly different numbers for the drop. Some describe more than 20 feet. Inner Space Cavern's own history gives a more specific version. The bit dropped 26 feet after cutting through about 40 feet of limestone. The safest version is also the most dramatic. The drill broke into a void that was not supposed to be there. That void became Inner Space Cavern. To visitors, it would become a show cave beside I-35. To paleontologists, it is also known as Laubach Cave. The Texas Speleological Survey describes it as a large and complex cave in Williamson County and notes that the cave extends beneath the interstate. Within months of the drilling accident, cavers were allowed to enter. They went down through the artificial opening with ropes and lights, leaving the world of pavement, survey lines, and highway plans for a dark limestone system that modern life had been passing over without noticing. By 1966, Inner Space Cavern had opened to the public. That could be the neat version of the story. A road crew finds a cave, explorers map it, trails are built, visitors come through. It becomes a local landmark. But the tourist cave was only the visible layer. The deeper story was not just that the cave existed. It was what the cave had preserved. Inside Inner Space were remains from the late Pleistocene, the Ice Age chapter before the modern landscape settled into shape. The Texas Historical Commission reports more than 40 species from the cavern, including 11 extinct species. The Texas Speleological Survey lists animals connected to the site such as mammoth, saber-toothed cat, glyptodont, camel, horse, ground sloth, short-faced bear, peccary, bats, and others. These were not dinosaurs. They were mammals moving through changing Texas environments. Grazers, browsers, predators, scavengers, small animals, large animals, and animals that point toward ecological variety. That variety is the first clue. If all we want is a shocking thumbnail, we can stop at the phrase mammoths under a highway. But the real question is better than that. What kind of Texas could leave this kind of record behind? Today, the hill country is often imagined as rocky limestone, thin soil, dry ridges, cedar, oak, caves, highways, and suburbs. The Ice Age evidence does not fit one frozen postcard. It points toward a shifting landscape, open areas, wooded areas, deeper soils in places, sinkholes, floods, water routes, and animals following food and habitat as conditions changed. The cave did not preserve a complete movie of that world. It preserved fragments. And fragments are powerful only when we do not force them to say more than they can. That is why Inner Space matters as a cave, not just as a list of animals. Central Texas sits on limestone karst. Rainwater takes in carbon dioxide from soil, becomes mildly acidic, and moves through cracks in the rock. Over long spans of time, cracks widen into passages. Passages widen into rooms. The balcony's fault zone helped shape part of that underground architecture. During the Ice Age, openings to the surface could form through sinkholes. Floodwater could move through the cave system. Bones could fall in, wash in, or collect in low passages. The cave became a collector of the surface world. That means a fossil in a cave is not just an object. It is also a process. How did it enter? Was it moved by water? Was it exposed before burial? Was it mixed with older or younger material? Did one passage preserve a clean layer, or did the cave combine many moments into one deposit? Those questions do not weaken the story. They make the story honest. One reported date gives the archive real depth. The Texas Speleological Survey says the oldest radiocarbon-dated bone from a Texas cave came from inner space, 23,230 years before present, plus or minus 490 years. That does not mean every fossil in the cavern is exactly that old. It does not date the whole cave. It means at least part of the record reaches deep into the late Pleistocene. And the bones are not alone. Researchers at the University of Texas at Austin's Jackson School of Geosciences have described prairie dog fossils from inner space as a clue about the surface above the cave. Prairie dogs need soil they can burrow into. Their presence suggests that parts of the hill country once had deeper soils and a different ecology than the thin soil image many people picture today. Even the stone formations matter. Stalagmites and stalactites, known as speleothems, grow from mineral-rich water drop by drop. Because that water starts at the surface, speleothems can preserve climate signals from the world above. So inner space is not one archive. It is at least two: bones that point to animals, and stone that can point to climate. Here is where the story becomes less sensational and more interesting. Caves preserve evidence, but they can also mix evidence. A bone in a cave is not automatically a clean timestamp. It may have fallen through a sinkhole. It may have been carried by floodwater. It may have been buried, exposed, mineralized, moved, or placed near material from a different time. A cave deposit can be a palimpsest, one ancient page written over another. That is the central conflict, proof or assumption. If someone says inner space proves a new human history of America, the answer is no. The reviewed sources do not confirm human remains, stone tools, hearths, footprints, rock art, or Ice Age human occupation inside Inner Space Cavern. But if someone says inner space is only a tourist attraction, that is also too small. The stronger answer sits in the middle. Inner space can challenge a simplified picture of Ice Age Texas. It can show that animal ranges, soil conditions, water movement, local climate, and cave preservation were more complicated than a flat map suggests. That is why this 1963 accident still matters now. In 2025, TxDOT published a story about a modern survey of Inner Space Cavern. The goal was not discovery this time. It was protection and planning. Surveyors mapped the cave in detail, tied underground passages to surface coordinates, and used modern scanning tools, including a dog-shaped robot with LiDAR capability, to help understand how future I-35 work might interact with the cave below. There is a clean loop in that. Highway work accidentally revealed the cavern. Decades later, highway planners had to return underground so the road above could account for the cave below. Inner space is also part of a wider Central Texas pattern. In 2026, researchers studying Bender's Cave reported unexpected Ice Age animals from a separate cave context. Bender's Cave is not inner space. It was not the I-35 discovery. It matters here because it shows that Central Texas caves are still changing the regional picture. The cautious interpretation is the important part. The Bender's Cave work suggests the animal assemblage may point to warmer intervals or a more complex environment than a simple cold, dry grassland model. But the researchers also discuss sample bias, time averaging, and dating limits. Again, the lesson is not instant certainty. The lesson is better evidence, read carefully. So does Inner Space Cavern rewrite Ice Age America? Not in the fake way. It does not reveal a lost civilization under I-35. It does not prove a new origin story for people in the Americas. It does not give us real photographs of mammoths walking through caves. But it may rewrite something more honest. The mental image. Ice Age Texas was not one simple landscape. Beneath modern roads and towns are karst systems that collected bones, mud, water, minerals, and climate signals while the surface changed above them. A highway drill found empty space. Cavers found a cavern. Paleontologists found fragments of a lost ecosystem. The best version of the story is not everything we know is wrong. It is that the past was always more detailed than our summaries. Under Interstate 35, the road belongs to the present, but the limestone below it keeps another record. Animals, floods, soil, climate, and uncertainty. That is the real mystery. Not a secret history waiting to be exaggerated. A real one waiting to be read carefully.